last time we talked about how to use your multimeter and how to indicate that there's a short. And today I'm going to explore that even further and show you techniques on how to find exactly the source of that short. Now you can tell today I have not used my pomade. Okay, so this is a non-pomade video. All right, I've got a motherboard here. I'm just going to hit record on my microscope, and this board is riddled with shorts. A board can have more than one power rail shorted. Now I just mentioned something that I hadn't before, power rail. A computer has got several power rails, and we'll talk about what those are later. Right now let's just get into finding, or the different techniques of finding where exactly a short is coming from. So we learned that one of the functions of your multimeter is continuity, and that helps check to see if things are touching. Some things are supposed to touch and some are not. There is no device on a motherboard where both sides of it, if it's polarized, some things are not polarized, are supposed to be touching ground. Okay, now remember, ground is basically on a motherboard voltage out. So go into the microscope here. I'm going to go to a ground spot, which let's see, I'll put I want to show you where I'm going to ground. It's just above where I'm at, so I'm going to put my black lead right here. Then I'm going to go to these inductors and capacitors here. Okay, I'm going to touch this inductor, and it is indicating about 4.5 ohms. All right, we'll go to the other inductor, and it's about 2.6 ohms. So something in here is shorted. Like I said, no device on a motherboard should have both ends of it touching ground. Okay, and then there are some that don't touch ground at all, like inductors and resistors. So, but let's look at these capacitors right here. Okay, so I've got my lead still on ground, and I'll touch this end of the capacitor. Okay, so that end is ground. We'll go to this side, and it stops. Okay, this is the positive side. This is the negative side. This is the positive side. Here's a negative side. Whoops, that's the positive side. And let's go to the negative side here. And that is perfectly fine. That's supposed to touch ground. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So this third one, we're going to touch here on this side, touching ground, and on this side, it's showing very low. Oh yeah, so both sides are touching ground. Now that does not necessarily mean that this is the source of our short. Okay, you could remove that, and we could test it by removing it and seeing if we still have a short in here somewhere. So let's go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you the technique that we use to pinpoint where a short is coming from. So I'm going to turn on my hot air, and I'm going to be hitting it pretty much full blast. Now we'll take that capacitor off. because that capacitor could be either the source of the short or not. But there's nothing to taking a capacitor off. That's no big deal. So that's what we'll try right now. Alright, go into the microscope and we're going to remove this one right here. I'm at 500 C and full air. One soldering tip is, and one thing that a lot of people don't realize, that the actual motherboard needs to heat up to the melting point of solder. And that might not seem correct, but it is, because there's solder touching the board and underneath the capacitor and underneath these devices. So it's got to get, it has to get that hot. The board has got to get hot. You can see that I've loosened a nearby device. This capacitor is sucking up, absorbing a lot of heat. Sometimes shorted devices can weld themselves to the board. Now, I'm not absolutely sure that this capacitor is our culprit. I'm just showing you that you could test it. You could test to see if this is the source of the short. Here we go. And I will put this capacitor to the side. And then we need to let that cool down for a little bit, because heated metal has less resistance and can mimic continuity. It can mimic a short because the molecules within that metal are very excited and making it easier for electrons to flow. As the metal cools down, there's less excitement going on, and eventually when it gets to room temperature, it shows you exactly what the nature of the short is, or whether there is a short. I'm going to add a little alcohol here. This isn't advisable on a board you really want to fix. I'm doing that to help it cool down. So I'll take my multimeter and see if we still have a short on both sides. So there it's showing short, and we're still showing short here. Okay, so what do we do? As you can see here, I have, this is a bench power supply, and I have it set on 1.2 volts. I have it set to draw it the maximum amps that it can, and the maximum amperage that that power supply can provide is 5 amps. That's more than enough to show you where a short is, especially using a thermal camera. So that's what we're going to do, is we're going to inject voltage. So I'm going to turn on my thermal camera, and then I'm going to show you what I have here. This bench power supply has got a negative side, black, and then the positive side, you can see here I have a needle that I have the alligator clip holding. And I use that for precision because sometimes you need to get into places. Also on this motherboard, I have soldered, let's see here, right here, I've soldered a wire, and what I'm going to do is I am going to connect my black probe to it so it doesn't move around. Now, yeah, I could just use this alligator clip, here we go, and connect it to one of the points on the board, but this is a more solid connection. All right, so we have ground selected, and I want to show you that your bench power supply can also show a short. If I go ahead and take this needle and point it right here where the short is indicated, do you see how the voltage dropped from 1.2 volts to nearly nothing, and now it's drawing maximum amps? Okay, so that means there's a short on this power rail somewhere. All right, so I'm going to use my thermal camera to see if I can't locate exactly where that short is coming from. Now the board is very hot. That will be shown on the thermal camera. And I want to see if I can find where exactly that short is originating from. And keep in mind, it could come from the other side of the board. And this thermal camera does not have the ability to record video, so when I do find a hot spot, first I'll show you how hot the board is. I'll go ahead and take this picture. See if I can take a picture here. Okay, I took a picture of the board, and right now I'm not seeing anything light up. What that can mean is several things. There could be something shorted that's underneath a chip, like solder touching each other. Those are what we call thick wire shorts. A thick wire short will not show up on your thermal camera. Let's see if I can find another short, because I don't think that, well, here we go. All right, I'm going to take a picture of this. Okay, you can see here I'm putting, let me show you what I'm doing. I'm going to put my probe right here, and you can see that it's drawing 2.92 amps. And you see the only thing that is glowing is the CPU. And once again, this CPU, the heat is right in the very center. That's one way that we know that the CPU is bad. Okay, but I don't see anything else getting hot. And they don't have to glow hot. They can Like let's say if this board was cool, it can go from just blue to just slightly red. But that's how we chase down exactly the source of a short. Let's go back over here to our original location. And I'm going to go ahead and put my probe right here. And that's not drawing anything. Let's put it on this side. And that's not drawing anything. Yeah, now it is. Okay, and now I have got some heat coming from a spot, and I'll take a picture on the video card. As CPUs, GPUs, you can figure out that they're bad the same way, is if when you're injecting voltage, they should heat up all at once if they're good. If they're bad, only a spot will heat up. I would love to find one that you see the guys on the internet do all the time where it's just a capacitor. That's what you're always hoping for when you're looking for a short, is that it's just a capacitor, because capacitors are easy to replace, and some of them don't even need to be replaced. But in this case, it is the GPU and the CPU. Guys, next time I'll talk more about power rails, buck converters, and how a CPU is powered, and what all you can fix on a computer. Next time I'll make sure that my hair has pomade in it. You guys have a great day.